The massive orbital station, Nexus Prime, hung in the void like a crystalline jewel, its bioluminescent corridors pulsing with alien energy. For 300 cycles, it had been the crown achievement of Galactic Council engineering, a perfect fusion of 12 different species technologies. Now sparks cascaded from wall panels as emergency sirens wailed through the pristine halls. Kim Hanachas pressed her face against the reinforced viewing port, watching evacuation pods streak away from the station like fleeing fireflies. The Zeltharian, engineers with their forearms and crystal-clear thought processes, moved in perfectly synchronized panic. Their leader, Chief Technician Veltar, gestured frantically at holographic displays showing cascading system failures throughout the station's 17 levels. Impossible, impossible, Veltar's translator device crackled as his species' harmonic language converted to standard galactic. The quantum matrices are stable, the bio-neural networks show green, yet everything fails. Hana watched a Vorthan maintenance drone spark and crash into the corridor wall, its anti-gravity generators sputtering out. The slug-like Vorthans, masters of biotechnology, oozed away from their failing organic computers with expressions of pure terror on their eye-stalk faces. Their living machines, bred over millennia to never fail, were dying before their eyes. The station shuddered, and Hana grabbed a support beam as artificial gravity fluctuated. Through the chaos, she spotted the towering form of Commander Thexwan, the insectoid Manthari who ran Nexus Prime. His compound eyes reflected the emergency lighting as he approached, his 6 legs clicking against the metal floor in distress. Patterns. Human Hana. Thexwan's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. Your people, they repair things that should not work, yes? Make function from broken pieces? Around them, more alien technicians fled past. A group of gaseous ethereals, beings of pure energy contained in mechanical suits, flickered and dimmed as they evacuated through the air recycling systems. Even the proud Drakmari, reptilian warriors who feared nothing in combat, carried their wounded technology like fallen comrades. "Commander," Hana said, her voice steady despite the chaos, "what exactly is happening?" A Zeltharian junior engineer scuttled past, his crystal carapace cracked with stress fractures. "The perfection protocols are conflicting," he chittered before disappearing around a corner. "Systems cannot adapt to imperfection." Hana's eyes widened with understanding. She'd seen this before on smaller scales. The Galactic Council's technology was indeed perfect, each component designed to exact specifications with zero tolerance for deviation. But perfection meant rigidity, and rigidity meant catastrophic failure when something unexpected occurred. The key. Station lurched again, and emergency blast doors began sealing sections. Hana watched a maintenance robot, a beautiful fusion of Vorthan biotechnology and Zeltharian precision, malfunction, and begin painting the walls with its repair gel instead of fixing them. The sight would have been comical if not for the growing realization that Nexus Prime was slowly tearing itself apart. "Commander," Hana said, pulling out her basic human toolkit, a collection of simple instruments that alien engineers often mocked as primitive. "I need access to your core systems." Thexwan's antennae twitched in what his species considered deep thought. Around them, the last of the alien crew were evacuating, leaving only emergency automated systems and the growing symphony of mechanical failure. "Human Hana," the commander said slowly, "your species has reputation among the Council. You make repairs that should not be possible. Fix things with methods that make our scientists uncomfortable." A section of the ceiling collapsed 20 meters away, revealing the complex bio-neural networks that controlled life support. The living tissue, designed to self-repair and adapt, was instead consuming itself in recursive loops of perfection-seeking that prevented any actual healing. "That's exactly right, Commander," Hana said, watching sparks dance across failing quantum processors. "Human engineering isn't about perfection, it's about making things work, no matter what." The commander's compound eyes studied her for a long moment as another explosion echoed from deeper in the station. His species had conquered star systems through precise military tactics, but this chaos was beyond their understanding. "The Council will not understand if I give core access to a human," Thexwan admitted. his voice carrying the harmonic undertones of his species' distress. But perhaps understanding is luxury we cannot afford. As he spoke, the lights flickered, and Hannah could feel the station's rotation beginning to destabilize. Somewhere in the distance, she heard the distinctive whine of artificial gravity generators, struggling against impossible demands for perfection that prevented them from compensating for real-world variables. "Commander," Hannah said, hefting her. "Toolkit. Sometimes the best solution isn't the perfect one. Sometimes it's just the one that works." The elevator shaft descended through layers of alien architecture, each level representing a different species' contribution to Nexus Prime. Lee Minho gripped the emergency handholds as the transport pod shuddered past Zeltharian crystal gardens, Vorthan biochambers, and ethereal energy conduits. Beside him, Kim Hannah studied her scanner readings with growing concern. "The power fluctuations are getting worse the deeper we go," she muttered, watching the display spike erratically. "It's like the station's heart is having seizures." Minho pressed his face to the transparent walls of the pod, watching maintenance drones drift helplessly through the shaft. These weren't the crude robots humans built, but elegant fusion creatures, part machine, part living tissue, part pure energy. Each one was a masterpiece of engineering that cost more than an entire human city. Now they floated like beautiful corpses, their perfect systems unable to adapt to the chaos spreading through Nexus Prime. The pod shuddered to a halt at level 17, the restricted core level that only the highest-ranking alien engineers were permitted to enter. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows through the crystalline corridors as blast doors sealed behind them with mechanical precision that somehow felt ominous. "Holy," Minho whispered as they stepped into the core chamber. The heart of Nexus Prime stretched before them like a cathedral made of living mathematics. Crystalline pillars twisted upward into infinity, each one pulsing with bio-neural energy that formed patterns so complex they hurt to look at directly. Quantum processors the size of buildings hummed in perfect harmony, their surfaces covered in equations that would take human mathematicians' lifetimes to understand. But something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Hannah pulled out her basic scanner, a device so primitive compared to the surrounding technology that it seemed like a stone tool in a spaceship. The readings made her stomach drop. "Minho, look at this. The power distribution isn't just failing, it's creating feedback loops. Around them, the beautiful alien machinery was consuming itself. A bio-neural network, designed to grow and adapt like a living brain, was instead trapped in recursive thinking patterns. It would start to heal damaged sections, then calculate that the repair wasn't mathematically perfect, then undo the repair and start again, creating an endless cycle that drained more energy each time. It's like watching a computer try to divide by zero," Minho said, his engineering background helping him understand the catastrophe unfolding around them. But instead of just crashing, it's taking the entire station with it. A section of the core chamber suddenly flared with blinding light as quantum processors overloaded, trying to achieve impossible perfection. The explosion sent crystalline fragments raining down, each piece catching the light like deadly diamonds. Hannah grabbed Minho and pulled him behind a support pillar as debris crashed where they'd been standing. "The aliens built this place like a work of art," Hannah shouted over the growing chaos. "Every component is absolutely perfect, designed to exact specifications with zero tolerance for error." Another explosion rocked the chamber as a biocomputer, trying to calculate the perfect response to system failures, instead created more failures in its attempt to achieve mathematical certainty. The organic neural pathways, bred over generations to never make mistakes, were literally dying from their inability to accept imperfection. Minho watched in fascination and horror as maintenance systems tried to repair the damage. Robotic arms moved with ballet-like precision, each motion calculated to be absolutely optimal. But when they encountered debris that didn't match their perfect blueprints, they simply stopped, unable to adapt or improvise. "This is insane," he said, watching a drone repeatedly try to fit a square component into a round socket, its programming preventing it from trying any other approach. They never planned for anything to go wrong, The chamber shook again, and warning alarms began blaring in 17 different alien languages. Holographic displays showed cascading failures throughout Nexus Prime as perfect systems encountered imperfect problems and simply shut down rather than operate below optimal efficiency. "Look at this," Hana called out, studying a Vorthan biocomputer that was literally eating itself. The living tissue had been designed to self-repair, but when it detected imperfections in its own structure, it began consuming the flawed sections, which created more imperfections, which triggered more consumption in an endless spiral of biological self-destruction. A massive crystalline pillar cracked with a sound like breaking glass, sending harmonic vibrations through the chamber that made their teeth ache. The quantum field generators were trying to maintain perfect stability, but the more energy they used to eliminate tiny fluctuations, the more unstable they became. "Hana," Minho said quietly, his voice full of realization, "I think I understand what happened. The aliens made everything so perfect that when one small thing went wrong, nothing could adapt. No backup systems, no redundancies, no room for error. Around them, the most advanced technology in the galaxy was committing suicide rather than operate imperfectly. It was beautiful, terrible, and completely alien to the human way of thinking. They built a station that can't survive reality," Hana whispered, watching perfection destroy itself. Kim Hanami pulled a roll of duct tape from her toolkit, and the watching Zeltharian engineer Veltar made a sound like grinding crystal. The alien's forearms trembled as he witnessed what he clearly considered an act of technological sacrilege about to unfold in the sacred core chamber of Nexus Prime. "Human Hana, that adhesive substance is not rated for quantum field exposure." Veltar chittered through his translator, his crystalline carapace reflecting the chaotic emergency lighting. "The molecular structure will destabilize the harmonic frequencies of the bio-neural networks." Hana ignored him and began wrapping the tape around a cracked power conduit that was spitting dangerous energy arcs. The moment the primitive Earth adhesive touched the alien technology, sparks stopped flying and power began flowing again through the makeshift repair. "Impossible," whispered another Zeltharian, his compound eyes wide with shock. "The mathematical models clearly indicate that such crude materials should cause cascade failures." From the command center 3 levels above, Park Jiho watched the alien faces on his monitoring screens with growing amusement. The Zeltharian observers looked physically ill as they watched Hana work. One actually backed away when she pulled out a wire stripper and began cutting into the station's bio-neural pathways with what they considered barbaric tools. "Commander Thex 1, Jiho said into his communicator, "the aliens look like they're about to faint. Should I warn them that?" "She's just getting started." Through the speakers, he could hear the Manthari commander's mandibles clicking in what passed for laughter among his species. "Let them observe, human Jiho. Perhaps they will learn something." Back in the core chamber, Hana had moved on to her next target, a biocomputer that was consuming itself in recursive perfection loops. Lee Minho held a flashlight while she carefully inserted copper wire, the kind used in basic Earth electronics, directly into the organic processing matrix. "This is heresy," one of the Vorthan observers oozed, his eye stalks recoiling in horror. "You are contaminating a bio-neural network that took 3 generations to cultivate with primitive metallic conductors." The biocomputer immediately stopped its self-destructive behavior and began processing normally. The organic tissue, no longer trapped in impossible perfection calculations, adapted around the crude copper wire and incorporated it into its neural pathways like it had always been. There, Minho grinned at the stunned aliens. "Sometimes the best solution isn't the smartest one. Sometimes it's just the one that works." Hana moved to a section where quantum processors were overloading from trying to maintain perfect mathematical harmony. She pulled out what looked like a simple metal bracket, the kind used to mount shelves in human homes, and began wedging it between 2 crystalline matrices. "Stop!" shrieked a Zeltharian supervisor, his harmonic voice creating feedback through the chamber's acoustic systems. "That crude metal will disrupt the quantum field alignment. The resonance frequencies will collapse." Hana hammered the bracket into place with a regular earth hammer, each impact making the aliens flinch as if she was striking them personally. The quantum processors immediately stabilized, their perfect mathematical calculations now buffered by the crude metal bracket that allowed for tiny imperfections without system failure. Jiho watched from the command center as alien technicians throughout the station began reporting impossible readings. Systems that should have failed catastrophically were instead running better than ever. Emergency warnings were clearing faster than the alien computers could process them. The humans are achieving stabilization rates of 93%, reported a Drakmari officer, his reptilian voice full of confusion. This exceeds optimal performance parameters by 17%. On his screens, Jiho could see Hana working her way through the core chamber like a battlefield medic, applying quick fixes that would have made alien engineers weep if they were capable of tears. She used zip ties to secure loose bio-neural connections, electrical tape to insulate damaged quantum conduits, and even a bent paperclip to bridge a gap in a crystalline matrix. Each repair looked absolutely wrong by alien standards, but somehow made everything work better. The station's systems, freed from the tyranny of perfection, began adapting and compensating in ways their designers never imagined possible. Human Hana, Veltar approached cautiously. Your methods violate every principle of proper engineering. Yet somehow, impossibly, they function. How is this possible? Hana looked up from where she was using rubber bands to tension a bio-neural connection that kept slipping out of alignment. Because perfect doesn't exist in the real world, she said simply. We learned a long time ago that sometimes you have to make things work with whatever you have, not whatever you wish you had. A section of the chamber that had been dark for hours suddenly blazed with light as her repairs cascaded through the station's networks. The aliens watched in stunned silence as primitive human fixes spread through their advanced technology like a beneficial virus, each crude repair enabling other systems to work more efficiently. Jiho smiled as he watched alien faces shift from horror to reluctant amazement. Looks like they're starting to understand something, he muttered. The transformation of Nexus Prime happened faster than anyone expected. Within hours of Kim Hana's crude repairs, systems throughout the massive station began operating with an efficiency that left alien observers speechless. Park Jiho watched from the command center as display after display showed green lights where red warnings had dominated for days. Chief Technician Veltar approached the monitoring stations with hesitant steps, his crystalline carapace still reflecting stress fractures from the earlier crisis. Human Jiho, he said, his harmonic voice unusually quiet. We are detecting system performance levels that exceed our original design specifications by 28%. This should not be mathematically possible. Jiho pulled up the station-wide diagnostics, showing the Zeltharian engineer how Hana's makeshift repairs had created something unprecedented. Where perfect alien systems had failed, the crude human fixes had introduced flexibility that allowed the technology to adapt to real-world conditions. Look at Section 7, Jiho pointed to the holographic display. Your bio-neural network was consuming itself trying to achieve perfect calculations. Now it's processing data while accepting that some answers are good enough instead of perfect. The Zeltharian's compound eyes studied the readouts with growing amazement. The biocomputer, freed from its perfectionist prison by copper wire and duct tape, was now handling computational loads that would have destroyed it before. Instead of calculating every possibility to mathematical certainty, it was making quick decisions and moving on. Commander Thex-1 clicked into the command center, his 6 legs moving in patterns that indicated deep contemplation among his species. Behind him followed a delegation of senior alien engineers from across the Galactic Council, their varied forms creating a bizarre procession through the pristine corridors. Human Jiho, the Manthari commander said, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. We have been observing the repairs throughout the station. We must understand, how did your species develop such methods? Lee Minho entered the command center, his coveralls stained with biofluid and quantum residue from working alongside Hana in the lower levels. The alien engineers instinctively stepped back from his contaminated appearance, but their eyes remained fixed on him with newfound respect. Commander, Minho said, wiping his hands on a rag that would have horrified the aliens hours earlier, I think the difference is that we never had perfect materials to work with. On Earth, we've always had to make things work with whatever we had available. A Vorthan engineer, her slug-like form glistening under the artificial lights, oozed forward with curiosity. Explain this concept, human Minho. Our biotechnology is cultivated over generations to achieve optimal performance. How do you create function from imperfection? Minho gestured to the displays showing the station's improved performance. Because we expect things to break, he said simply. Every human-built system has backup plans, workarounds, and redundancies. We design for failure because we know failure is inevitable. The gathered aliens exchanged glances that spoke volumes across species barriers. Their technology was indeed magnificent, but it was also brittle. They had achieved perfection at the cost of adaptability. Veltar studied a detailed schematic of Hana's repairs, his forearms tracing the crude fixes that had somehow created system-wide improvements. Your human Hana inserted random elements, and to precisely calibrated systems, he said, his voice full of wonder. By all mathematical models, this should have created chaos. Instead, it created resilience, Jiho replied, pulling up comparative data from before and after the crisis. Your perfect systems couldn't handle unexpected problems. Our imperfect solutions gave them room to bend instead of breaking. An ethereal observer, her energy form contained within a mechanical suit, flickered with what her species considered deep thought. We have spent millennia eliminating variables, pursuing mathematical certainty in all our designs. But perhaps uncertainty itself has value we never considered. Through the command center's viewing ports, they could see maintenance drones moving throughout the station with newfound purpose. These weren't the elegant, perfectly programmed units from before. The crisis. Now they carried rolls of human duct tape alongside their sophisticated tools, ready to make quick fixes instead of waiting for optimal solutions. Commander Thex-1 accessed his personal communicator and began composing a message that would change galactic engineering forever. "I'm sending a priority communication to the Galactic Council," he announced. "We must revise our understanding of technological development." A Drakmari engineer, his reptilian features showing the confusion common to his warrior species, when facing concepts they'd never encountered, stepped forward. "Human Minho, your species appears to embrace failure as a design philosophy. This conflicts with everything we understand about advancement." Minho smiled, remembering countless human innovations born from necessity and limited resources. "We don't embrace failure, Commander. We expect it, plan for it, and learn from it. Every human child learns that if something breaks, you try to fix it with whatever you have available. We've been doing that for thousands of years." The revelation was spreading beyond the command center. Throughout Nexus Prime, alien technicians were discovering that systems repaired with human methods were not just functional, but somehow more robust than before. The crude fixes had introduced controlled imperfection that allowed the technology to handle variables the original designers never anticipated. "We achieved perfection," Veltar said quietly, "but perfection cannot grow, cannot adapt, cannot survive in an imperfect universe." The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with unprecedented activity as representatives from 47 different species gathered for an emergency session. The massive crystalline dome, usually a place of measured deliberation, now crackled with urgent energy as holographic displays showed the miraculous recovery of Nexus Prime. Choi Somin sat in the human delegation section, her small Earth, uniform looking almost primitive among the elaborate ceremonial garments of alien ambassadors. Around her towered the magnificent forms of galactic civilization, the crystalline Zeltharians catching light like living prisms, the flowing ethereals contained in their mechanical suits, and the imposing Drakmari with their scaled armor gleaming. Under the chamber's bioluminescent lighting, High Chancellor Mordeth, a being of pure energy speaking through quantum translators, called the session to order. "Representatives of the Galactic Council, we convene to address the unprecedented crisis and recovery of Nexus Prime, our most advanced technological achievement." Holographic recordings played throughout the chamber, showing the station's near-catastrophic Failure and the impossible repairs performed by the human engineering team. Alien representatives watched in stunned silence as crude Earth materials somehow stabilized their most sophisticated technology. Chief Technician Veltar rose from the Zeltharian section, his forearms gesturing to technical displays that would have taken human scientists decades to understand. Honored representatives, what we witnessed defies our fundamental understanding of technological development. Human engineering methods, which we previously considered primitive, have achieved results that our perfect systems could not. A wave of harmonic discussions rippled through the chamber as various species communicated in their native languages. The Vorthan delegation oozed together in their consultation pools, while the insectoid Manthari clicked their mandibles in rapid fire, exchanges that created a symphony of confusion and wonder. Ambassador Somin watched a replay of Kim Hana using duct tape to repair quantum processors, remembering how the alien observers had recoiled in horror at the sight. Now those same aliens were studying the footage with the intensity of scholars discovering ancient wisdom. Commander Thexwan stepped forward, his 6 legs clicking against the chamber floor in the ceremonial patterns of his species. Honored Council, the humans have taught us something profound. We achieved perfection in our designs, but perfection, we now understand, is brittle. The humans embraced imperfection and created strength. The ethereal representative flickered with what her species considered deep contemplation. The human concept of making do with available resources appears to create technological resilience we never developed. Their systems expect failure and plan for adaptation. Somin felt a surge of pride as she watched the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy grapple with concepts that human children learned in elementary school workshops. The idea that things break and need fixing, that backup plans are essential, that sometimes good enough is actually better than perfect. These were lessons humanity had learned through millennia of scarcity and survival. High Chancellor Mordeth's energy form pulsed with decision-making patterns. Ambassador Somin, the Council requires formal testimony regarding human engineering philosophy and its application to galactic technology. Rising from her seat, Somin felt the weight of thousands of alien eyes upon her. The translation matrix hummed as it prepared to convert her words into 47 different languages simultaneously. Honored representatives, humanity learned to engineer solutions under constraints that your species never faced. We had limited resources, hostile environments, and the constant expectation that our technology would fail. She gestured to the displays still showing Nexus Prime's recovery. We didn't develop our methods because we're superior engineers. We developed them because we had to. When you only have duct tape and copper wire, you learn to make them work. With quantum processors and bio-neural networks. A Drakmari general, his reptilian features showing the respect his warrior species held for proven capability, stood to address the chamber. The humans turned our greatest failure into our greatest success using materials we would discard as worthless. This demonstrates tactical adaptation beyond our military understanding. The chamber erupted in species-specific discussions as the implications became clear. For the first time in galactic history, a technologically primitive species had solved problems that advanced civilizations couldn't handle. High Chancellor Mordeth raised his energy field for silence. The Council hereby makes an unprecedented decision. We formally request that Earth provide human engineers for permanent assignment to all major galactic installations, defense platforms, and research stations. The announcement sent shockwaves through the chamber. Never before had the Galactic Council requested technological assistance from a species they considered backwards. Ambassador Somin felt her communicator buzzing with urgent messages from Earth as news of the historic moment spread across human space. Furthermore, the Chancellor continued, we established the Human Engineering Integration Protocol, requiring all new galactic projects to incorporate human design philosophy alongside our traditional methods. As the session concluded with ceremonial acknowledgements from each species, Somin reflected on how So Park Jiho, Lee Minho, and Kim Hana had unknowingly changed the course of galactic civilization. Their willingness to use duct tape and copper wire had taught the universe's most advanced species that sometimes the best solutions come from accepting imperfection. The stars outside the chamber seemed brighter somehow, as if the universe itself recognized that a new chapter in galactic engineering had begun. The end.